What is up everyone, welcome back to another video. Today it is time to have a look ahead at Game Week 11, my Game Week preview where I cover everything you need to know in one video ahead of the upcoming deadline. Welcome everyone. Just before we dive into the video, a quick reminder of FPLTIPS.com, a website that I spoke to you about last week. If you didn't watch that video, a quick update for you on what FPLTIPS.com is. It is a great weekly site that updates you on every single thing you need to know about the upcoming game week and a few FPL tips to go in there as well. Just 24 hours before the deadline, you and other 15,000 FPL managers get an email straight to your inbox that will tell you everything you need to know and help you make better decisions and become a better manager, increasing your overall rank. Signing up literally takes 3 seconds of your time. You just put your email in, nothing more than that. Sign up now, thank me later, and now let's get into the video. What is up everyone, welcome back to another video. FPL Harry here, and today it is Game Week 11 preview time. The video where I cover everything you need to know in one single video. Today we'll have a look at some top transfer targets. We'll answer your key questions. We'll talk about captaincy dilemmas, and this week for once, we do have a bit of a captaincy dilemma to look at because Erling Haaland does play against Liverpool, although they're conceding a lot of goals at the moment, and we will discuss Liverpool as well in the community Q&A section, which comes next, and then we'll finish off with a wildcard draft, potential players to target for anyone on a wildcard, or just generally what an optimal squad I think looks like if you are building a squad at the moment. Before we dive into it, we're going to try and hit 1,000 likes on this video. If you haven't already, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, but let's dive into it. So we're going to talk about some top transfer targets, but one thing I don't ever do is talk about really highly owned players. So I did want to add a small caveat. If you don't own the players like we've got here, like Trippier, like Kane, like Reece James, and then some of the highly owned, well-scoring midfielders as well, like Jarrod Bowen, James Maddison, and Wilfried Zaha, I would be prioritizing these 6 into my team over this week and the next couple of weeks as well. We'll talk about some maybe slightly lower owned, less talked about players as well in the upcoming segments of the video, but if you don't own all of these 6, then I'd be probably looking to get them in. Now, Kane is maybe a bit of a different one because it has to have a change in squad structure, so he's the least priority. The others I really like at the moment, and the form is really good. So if you're looking and you don't necessarily see the others later on in the video and you think I'm not recommending Maddison or Zaha, that's not why. It's just because they're so highly owned. I don't want to produce a video saying buy Erling Haaland when everyone already owns him. So 6 key players to definitely keep an eye on, but let's get into a few other players I think you should consider for your teams as well. The first one we're going to talk about is Lewis Dunk of Brighton, 4.6 million and just 4.4% ownership. Now, Brighton have been pretty mixed defensively so far this season. At the beginning of the season, we all went in heavily on their defense, particularly Sanchez in goal was a very popular goalkeeper to go and buy. He's predicted to score 17 points between now and game week 16, which is of course the final game week before we get those unlimited transfers before the World Cup. However, he hasn't scored that well. He's averaged 2.7 points per match so far this season. But what basically is important is that game week 12 fixture. A lot of you will be looking for defensive assets to go and buy at the moment. You might already own Cancelo, Trippier, Reece James, like we've spoken about already in this video, and you're looking for an option that you just want to start in game week 12. You don't need to play them every week, but you are looking at that game week 12 blank game week for Manchester City and Arsenal and thinking, I need a player who I can bring off my bench for that week, and then I can put them back on my bench for the rest of the season or the rest of the time up until that World Cup wildcard. And what better fixture to target than Nottingham Forest at home for Brighton in game week 12? If there's ever a clean sheet in a fixture that you're probably looking to target, surely that is the fixture that we have to go after. They also have an okay fixture this week if you do need to play them. Again, you've got Trent in your team, for example, looking to replace him. Brentford away this week, a team that have fallen out of form recently. Ivan Toney not scoring nearly as many goals. So if you are looking for a defender at the moment and you already own the likes of Reece James and Kieran Trippier, Lewis Dunk is definitely the one I would go and look at. Mark Gahey at 4.3 million is another good option playing Wolves at home in game week 12. It's between him and Lewis Dunk as my best cheap defenders to go and buy. There are a few other good fixtures that you could play them in. Wolves away and Aston Villa at home in the final 2 weeks before the World Cup. But buying these defenders, you really are focused on game week 12, and I think Brighton have the best fixture that week. Next up, we're going to talk about a goalkeeper, and someone I've started to talk about a little bit more and actually spoke about on the official Off the Bench podcast. If you haven't checked that out, it was a surreal moment again for me to be invited back on that podcast. There are links all over my socials if you do want to go and have a listen and check that out in a bit more detail. But I do talk about Kepa at 4.4 million, who would be my go-to goalkeeper at the moment. I did add a little bit of a caveat that I wouldn't go and do this unless Ward of Leicester is your backup. If you have a second keeper who doesn't play, I probably wouldn't go and buy him. However, Kepa looks like he's got that number one shirt back. He looks like he's the starting Chelsea goalkeeper. Potter, the new manager, loves to have a goalkeeper in place that knows how to play with the ball, is composed with the ball, and Kepa is certainly that, and he's shown that in the past few weeks. Mendy is a great shot stopper, maybe better than Kepa, well, probably better than Kepa, but actually for what Potter needs, I think Kepa suits it a little bit better, and he's the cheapest starting goalkeeper outside of Leicester. So again, a very affordable price. Now, the upcoming fixtures are mixed. Aston Villa, Brentford in the next two is nice, but then it is Manchester United, then it is Brighton away, then it is Arsenal, followed by Newcastle on the final game before the World Cup. So some mixed fixtures in there, but I think will probably outscore any of the other options you've got in and around there. I'm considering doing Gaeta into Kepa if I don't need my transfers elsewhere in my team. So a cheap option, predicted to score 17 points between now and the World Cup, which isn't amazing, but again, there is a slight risk to his rotational minutes, which does hinder the predicted points he's predicted to get. So if you're looking for a goalkeeper, if you've had enough of Nick Pope and those late goals and those one goals that they're conceding every game at the moment, Kepa is the goalkeeper I'd be going and buying. Next up, we go to Leeds, and it is a 6.3 million midfielder owned by 6.2% of managers, and I feel like I'm recording a video in game week 3 or game week 4 because it is Rodrigo of Leeds. He has returned from injury and he has had a price drop from where he ended up after his lots of price rises at the beginning of the season because of the form he showed, with 3 goals and 1 assist in his first 6 starts of the season. And then Patrick Bamford is also back, Sinisterra is back. That Leeds team now look really, really good going forward. The upcoming fixtures are mixed. They've got Arsenal at home this week, which is okay. Arsenal have been conceding a few goals of late, particularly less good away from home. So Leeds being at home, it does bode quite well for Rodrigo. Leicester away, Fulham at home, and then they do also have a very nice Bournemouth at home fixture coming up on the horizon as well. There are lots of midfielders to be picking at the moment. A 5 midfield formation does feel like the way to go, with the likes of Maddison, Zaha, Foden, Bowen, even Trossard being good options to go with. He is very lowly owned compared to where he got. If he can return to even a fraction of the form that he showed at the beginning of the season, at just 6.3 million, Rodrigo could be an absolute steal once again. Next up, we move up front, potentially looking at replacements for Harry Kane, who is currently yellow flagged, Alexander Mitrovic, who is yellow flagged, and Isaac, who is yellow flagged. A lot of flags taking place if you have forwards in the game at the moment. I imagine everyone watching this has at least one. Wait for press conference news, of course, on those, but if you are looking to make a replacement, Scamacca of West Ham could be the go-to option. We've spoken about Bowen, but if you want a slightly cheaper option at 6.7 million compared to 8.1 million for Bowen, Scamacca could be the one you could go with. He scored in the most recent 2 games, 1 start and 1 off the bench. He is just 1.7% owned at the moment. Predicted to score almost 20 points between now and the World Cup as well, and given that there is a slight rotation risk, which again always hinders the predicted points, is a pretty optimistic return for him over this run. Southampton away, Bournemouth at home, Crystal Palace at home, and Leicester at home, all in a run between now and the World Cup. What a lovely run of home fixtures they do have. The only concern is that game week 12, which is a midweek deadline, of course, and the week that they play against Liverpool, and the week that you have no Manchester City or Arsenal assets. If they had a good fixture in here, it would be an absolute no-brainer to go and pile in on West Ham assets, given the form that they are showing so far this season. That fixture is maybe enough to put them off, but given the way Liverpool are performing at the moment, I think most of you will be captaining Erling Haaland this week as well. Then I do think we can still go and invest in these. He scored 2 goals so far this season, again predicted to score 19 points. Probably the forward that I'd be looking to buy if I do end up making a forward transfer this week. And fifth and finally, player to target, we go back to Brighton in Leandro Trossard. 6.8 million as a midfielder, predicted to score 23 points between now and the World Cup. Ranked as one of the best value picks that you can get over on Fantasy Football Scout. Members area where all of these stats, all of these predicted points, data so far this season have been taken from. If you are interested, there is a link in the description that you can go and check out to get all of that access as well, and a bit of a discount in the link below. But Trossard, 50 points so so far this season, averaging 8.3 points per start, 5 goals and 2 assists, has looked so good for Brighton. And under the new manager, there isn't that risk that he's playing left wing back some games, left wing the other. He's playing almost as a second striker alongside Danny Welbeck. Given their upcoming fixtures, again, like we said with Lewis Dunk, is definitely a player that we can go and buy. Brentford away and Nottingham Forest at home in the next 2. If you then don't want him when game week 13 comes around and you want to move to the likes of Bukayo Saka, upgrade to the likes of Phil Foden as well, then absolutely. If you are looking for a cheap midfielder or a midfielder mid-priced to go and get in your team for the next few weeks to cover you for the blank game week as well, Trossard is my number 1 pick that I think I'll be buying. Brentford away, again, a team conceding lots of goals, conceded plenty to Newcastle again last time out in game week 10. Then Nottingham Forest at home in game week 12, the plum fixture that we're wanting to go with. Trossard is almost set to start every game, playing a lot of minutes for Brighton at the moment. And if you do decide to hold him through the Manchester City and Chelsea games that do follow those 2 red fixtures there, you then get him for Wolves and Aston Villa in the final 2 games before they go to the World Cup. Again, if you are looking for a cheap midfield option or a mid-price option that needs to cover you for the next week, then I would be going with Trossard. I'm pretty certain that Trossard will be coming into my team in place of Kevin De Bruyne going into game week 12 for that Nottingham Forest at home fixture. Is anyone going to join me? Let me know in the comment section down below. He looks a great buy at the moment. Next up, we have captaincy ranking, and I can't believe that I got a captaincy ranking that has Erling Haaland not on top spot. We have Harry Kane up there at home to Everton. The form that Kane is in, I think he'll do really well. It's pretty identical between which of these 2 I would put at the top. Kane is a very good differential if you do fancy backing against Erling Haaland. For me, if I own both, I would still probably put it on Haaland just because I do like to play with the effective ownership, with the high ownership captain that is going to be Haaland this week. But if you do fancy a bit of a differential punt, the one I would go and look at is Harry Kane at home to Everton. The other 2 we've got in here are the Arsenal guys. We've got Saka and Jesus, but also Martinelli is a good pick given the form he showed, given the goals and assists he picked up in game week 10 against Liverpool. Arsenal look like they're scoring so many goals at the moment. Away at Leeds is definitely a fixture that they can look to target. There should be goals galore, probably for both sides in that match as well. Haaland, again, is just a machine. The amount of goals he's scoring whenever he plays, when we're making statements like he's only scored 1 this game, we know he's absolutely shaking up the Premier League. So I would probably be going on Erling Haaland, but predicted points is pretty close between the 2. It does actually put Harry Kane slightly above Erling Haaland. Again, it's pretty close, but I do like them both a lot. Make your call. I'm on Erling Haaland this week. Is anyone going against him? Again, drop it in the comment section down below. And penultimately, let's answer a few of your key community questions going into game week 11. Number 1, sent in by Jedi Jason. Should we be selling all Manchester City and Arsenal assets? How many do we need to keep for game week 12? So to answer the latter part of that, personally, I wouldn't want to play with any less than 10 players in game week 12. So that's benching 4 players from Manchester City and Arsenal combined. For a lot of you owning Kevin De Bruyne, it's a perfect opportunity to move from Kevin De Bruyne to Phil Foden. Sell Kevin De Bruyne in game week 12 for an option like Leandro Trossard, like we've spoken about. Then you can go and buy Phil Foden into your midfield from game week 13 onwards, and you don't have that player taking up a bench spot in that week. I also like keeping Haaland. I wouldn't lose value on him. I wouldn't lose value that you've got in Cancelo. And if you've got an Arsenal asset like Martinelli, I would not lose value in him. I think a lot of people will have a bench that looks like Haaland, Cancelo, Martinelli. If you have those 3 plus potentially 1 more, that's fine. I wouldn't want any less than 10 players going into that blank game week 12. Next up, Rory. Member Rory, his little badge there. Thank you for signing up to be a member. Again, anyone who considers joining up, let me know of any questions you've got, but there are links in the description if you do want to join as a channel member in either of the 2 tiers that I do offer. But he's asked for the best budget defenders. Now, we spoke about Lewis Dunk earlier in the video. He's probably number 1, closely followed by Mark Gahey of Crystal Palace. If you're looking elsewhere, James Justin could also do a job, or Max Kilman of Wolves. But for me, it's Dunk number 1, followed by Mark Gahey at Crystal Palace number 2. I'm really focusing on the game week 12 fixtures when picking these 2. We do have that home fixture against Nottingham Forest for Dunk and a home fixture against Wolves for Mark Gahey. Again, affordable prices, less than 9 million combined if you do own both of them, like I think I'm going to going into that week. Question number 3 comes from Football Shirt Collector. Is it time to be considering our free hit? I cannot put you enough off playing your free hit in game week 12. It is absolutely the worst time to be playing your free hit. Later on in the season, between about game week 25 and game week 38, having your free hit to navigate one of the blanks or one of the doubles is so fundamental to the way we should be playing and our chip strategy this season. Again, as I said in question 1, yes, I'll be aiming for 10 players, but if you have at least 8 players, maybe even 7 players, I would not use your free hit going into game week 11. If you have your wildcard left as well, don't play your wildcard that week either. Play your wildcard in game week 13, sell some Manchester City assets going into game week 12, wildcard in game week 13 to buy them all back again. So chip strategy, don't play your wildcard, don't play your free hit definitely, and wildcard the week after. And finally, Trossard has said, do we need to get rid of Liverpool assets now, or do we finally give them a little bit of an extra time going into that nice fixture run? So anyone who has looked at the Liverpool fixtures know from game week 12, they have a crazy good fixture run, including the likes of Leicester, including the likes of Nottingham Forest, and then West Ham at home in game week 12. However, we have seen that there are yellow flags on Trent Alexander-Arnold and Luis Diaz at the moment, plus the likes of Salah is just not performing well enough at his price. For me, they are all sells. I'd be getting rid of them all. It looks like Diaz and Trent will be out for long enough that they are definite sells, and Salah at his price, even if you were considering captaining him in game week 12, potentially you want to keep him for that, but he doesn't look a good enough asset given the new front 4 formation that they're playing at the moment. For me, if you have pressing matters and you have Salah in your team at the moment, then fine, keep him for game week 12, but after that, I would definitely be looking to move him on. I can't believe we'd ever get to the point where I was recommending having no Liverpool players in our squads, but it's time to get rid. And the final portion of this game week preview video is always the wildcard draft. If you want to know this video in detail, I post the video on Fantasy Football Scout's YouTube channel. I'll link it above. I post that on every Monday and I discuss the picks I've got in here in a lot of detail. But just to summarize exactly what I've got in here, it is a sort of 3-4-3 every week. There are a couple of players in here yellow flagged. We have seen today pictures of Kane back in training, so I think he'll be absolutely fine. And then Mitrovic as well. We were told that he'll be back either the previous game just gone, if not Bournemouth at home in game week 11 at the latest. So I am expecting both of those yellow flags to go. Then a few of the players we've spoken about in the early parts of the video do make it. We've got Kepa as our goalkeeper along with Danny Ward. In defence, it is the Trippier, Cancelo, James triple that everyone seems to have at the moment, combined with Dunk and Gahey. Those two options you can play in game week 12 because of their fantastic fixtures that week. Then we have Leandro Trossard of Brighton. We have Martinelli again. You can bench him along with Haaland and Cancelo in game week 12. We have Maddison and we have Zaha. Bowen is the one that does miss out because I can't own them all. There is a little bit of money left in the bank with this squad that you can go and upgrade Trossard to Foden once that game week 13 does roll around. Andreas as the cheap option. Again, he scored in game week 10, so hopefully some form he can carry into the blank game week. And then, as I said, Kane, Haaland, Mitrovic as our front 3. Let me know what you think of this wildcard in the comment section down below. Would you change any of it? In this video, we've covered some highly owned assets I still think are worth buying. We've covered 5 top transfer targets. We've covered your questions. We've covered a captaincy ranking and a wildcard, your one-stop shop for game week 10. If you have liked the video, if you've got this far, drop a like on the video. Let's hit 1,000 likes. That'd be fantastic. I appreciate all the support that we've had since the start of the season, pre-season. It has been crazy good. Like the video if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you get a reminder when all of these videos do go live, and my deadline stream 2 hours before the deadline every single game week. Good luck in game week 11. If I don't see you before then, there will be a team selection video and a deadline stream, but if I don't, good luck, and I'll be back again very soon.